And it's another snow day. So if you're like my cats, you just want to be all curled up in your bed and cozy, but we need to do some trig. So what we're talking about today are finding some trig function values using a calculator. So warm-up wise, we've done some things before where you're trying to figure out an angle that has a certain sine value. So you could use your special triangle and then figure out that you would need a 30-degree reference angle to get a sine value of 1/2. And since it's positive, you could have that 30-degree reference angle in either quadrant 1, and it'd just be 30 degrees, or you could have another angle in quadrant 2 that would still have that same 30-degree reference angle and still have a sine value of positive 1/2. So there are two possibilities for the angle that would have a sine value of 1/2, either 150 degrees or just our 30 degrees. Now, if it's not in your special triangles, that's when we're going to need to use a calculator. So things about using your calculator to get trig function values. First thing that you're going to need to check is to make sure whether or not your calculator is in degrees mode. So you could look for on your calculator, some of them have like a D that says it's in degrees mode, or a DEG. It should not have like an R, because R is for radians that we're going to talk about later. So let me show you how to check on a calculator like mine. So mine says mine's in radians mode right now. So if I go to this DRG menu at the top and arrow over, I can switch it, hit equals, 2 degrees mode, and it'll be all good. Now it says DEG at the bottom. If it's in the wrong mode, real quick, you'll figure it out because you won't get any of the same values that I get. So some inverse trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent, will get us some values of our angle measures that we need, like your warm-up. And just a reminder, these are going to be approximations. So to start with, we'll start with sine of 68 degrees divided by cosine of 68 degrees. Main thing is make sure you close your parentheses when you type this into your calculator. You could also instead just do tangent of 68 degrees, because that's sine over cosine. Either way, you'll get your value to be 2.475. If you don't have your calculator, you can go on Desmos and use their scientific calculator. Same idea. You can go to all the trig functions in the functions menu, type in your values, again making sure to close your parentheses around your trig functions, and then hit equals, and you can do it that way as well. So not having your calculator is not going to get you out of it. You don't have a cosecant button on your calculator, so you're going to have to use the fact that that is equal to 1 over your sine value. So first off, go ahead and find your sine value, because if we're looking at a cosecant value, a lot of times when we find it, we'll go, hey, if sine is 1/2, that means our cosecant value would be 2 over 1. So using your sine function to start with, you'll get that your sine value is going to be approximately 0.586 with some more decimal places. Don't round it off. Keep all your decimal places in your calculator. So if you do 1 divided by that, using your answer key so it keeps all the exact values, then your reciprocal, 1.708 approximately, is going to be your cosecant value. So if it's one of your reciprocal functions, start with the original and then do 1 divided by your answer. So let me show you what this would look like, because this is all about using your calculator today. So if you do your sine value and just type everything in there, hit equals, and then do 1 divided by, and then using your second key for your answer so it copies all those decimal places, hit equals. That'll give you an approximation. Or if you want to do it all at once, you have to be a little bit careful. You understand the 1 goes outside your trig function, but you could do 1 divided by sine that way as well and get the same thing. So if you're going to do a secant value, you would need to use your cosine function, because secant and cosine are reciprocals. Hopefully remember where those degrees, minutes symbols are. They're in your DMS menu on your calculator. So if cosine's 0.299 approximately, then you could do 1 divided by that and get that your secant value is approximately 3.347. Now we're going to go backwards where you need to find the angle that has some certain trig function value. So for all these, we're going to be using our inverse trig functions, or they're also called your arc trig functions. Those are the ones that have like the -1 symbol if you look on your calculator. So if you need an angle measure and you know your trig function value, you're going to use your inverse trig function. So if I know my cosine value is 0.92, go to your calculator, hit second, and then do cosine inverse of 0.92, etc. And what we get out will be the angle that has that trig function value, so 22.9 degrees. Now back to those reciprocal trig functions. You don't have an inverse cotangent button on your calculator, but you know that if this is your cotangent value for our mystery angle, then its tangent value is 1 over that. So think about the fact that your tangent value for this angle would be about 0.6918, and you can then use your inverse tangent function to go backwards from that and get the measure of your angle. Again, keep all those decimal places, use your answer key. Or if you want to, you can think, hey, I need the angle that has a tangent value of 1 over 1.44, type it in that way, and hit equals and get there directly. So think about the fact that its tangent value is 1 over your cotangent value. Same with cosecant. Change it back to a sine value by doing 1 over your cosecant value, and then do arcsine of that sine value, and you'll get the angle measure to be 21.243 degrees. If you try to do something like arcsine of 1.2, you're going to get a domain error, because remember, sine values are always between negative and positive 1, so this would be no angle possible. All right, a little bit of a word problem dealing with cars traveling up or down hills pressed on by force of gravity. So you've got this equation that gives you the grade resistance, it's called, pressing down on a car that's traveling uphill. Basically, we're just going to plug in our values, W for our weight, and our angle theta inside of our sine function, multiply them together, and that'll give you your grade resistance, approximately 374, which we're supposed to calculate to the nearest 10 pounds, so 370 pounds of grade resistance. If you're going backwards, again, plug in everything that you know. You're basically going to do some algebra and get your sine function by itself. So here you're going to end up dividing both sides by 2,400. And then you'll have sine of theta is going to be equal to 288 over 2,400, which I'm not going to bother to reduce because that's not my final answer anyways. Then you need the angle, so anytime you need an angle, use your arc trig function, or arcsine, or sine inverse, whatever you're calling it. So your angle is going to be what you get when you do arcsine of that value, which if you punch in your calculator, it's going to be an angle of approximately 6.892 degrees. So hopefully that all sounds good. Give your homework a try.